Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Also, quick thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet $50 on any game. Get up to $1,111 in free bets courtesy of the Betfred Sportsbook. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. And I want to talk about a story that, frankly, I thought we were kind of done talking about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And that's the saga of Bob Huggins and West Virginia University. By now, I think you kind of know where we last left this story. Kind of a sad deal all around. West Virginia basketball coach Bob Huggins, Hall of Famer, one of the greats to ever do it. He was actually, I believe, the all-time winningest coach in college basketball as of when this incident in June. But in June, Bob Huggins was arrested for a DUI. I don't need to go through all the details again, but when the details came out, it was really, really, really ugly. He was in Pittsburgh, couldn't explain why he was in Pittsburgh. This all, according to the police report, had hours upon hours of time that he could not account for, could not explain where he was, and was essentially nearly 3 times the legal limit when he was arrested. So after that, we have this weird situation where he goes back to the school, and that was on a Friday night. And then Saturday night, there's just this weird reporting about, is he stepping away from the program? There was a report that he wasn't going to coach this year. And then eventually we all kind of settled on he has resigned as West Virginia's basketball coach, and we all moved on. At that point, we didn't really hear all that much from Huggins' camp. His daughter did kind of have a statement that was put out on social media that we talked about on this show. West Virginia named an interim head coach, and that's where we thought we were. Should mention, by the way, that Bob Huggins' arrest came just a few weeks after he made an appearance on a radio show in which he did use a homophobic slur. The school stood by him at that point, but obviously after the DUI, it felt like everybody agreed that it was time for everyone to move on, for Bob Huggins to get some sort of treatment, and for, again, West Virginia to move on and Bob Huggins, etc. And so that is where we thought we left this story, and we really haven't had very many updates since then, at least until Saturday. That was because on Saturday night, a lawyer representing Bob Huggins, now interestingly, it's not the lawyer that has represented him this whole time, sent a statement to West Virginia basically saying Bob Huggins never officially resigned, and that Bob Huggins expects to be reinstated as West Virginia's basketball coach. And if he's not, he's going to sue the university. And so all I can say is this is a wild story, a crazy story, a lot of ways a sad story, and mostly just a you-know-what show at West Virginia, but more specifically for Bob Huggins. In terms of the details, listen, I read all the legal reports, so you don't have to, essentially. But basically what you need to know is a couple things. One, Bob Huggins is claiming that he never officially resigned, that the resignation came from his wife. And since this whole situation happened, essentially he has gone to rehab for, I think we all assume, kind of alcohol addiction or alcohol abuse at the very least. And now that he's out of rehab, he kind of wants his job back. And what this new lawyer is essentially saying is that it's basically a breach of contract to fire him, given the situation. There is sort of a precedent for this, if you remember, and this is another sad update, but if you remember when Steve Sarkisian got fired at USC, it was a very similar situation. Was Steve Sarkisian, some of his lawyers, I'm not going to get too much into it, but essentially told the school, you can't fire someone while they're seeking counseling for substance abuse. And essentially it feels like that is what Bob Huggins' lawyers are trying to say. In the statement, I will read a little bit of it, but it says, regardless of West Virginia's actions for reaching this point, West Virginia is faced with the following choices: reinstate Coach Huggins to his head basketball coach position once the rehabilitation program is completed, pursuant to the plain terms of his employment agreement, that's his contract, or remain in breach of the employment agreement and face litigation. The litigation will not only involve the breach of the employment agreement, but also West Virginia's clear violation of state and federal law terminating Coach Huggins without due process or even an interview to determine the true facts. not those reported to the media. As you can guess, West Virginia has basically released its own statement. And basically what they said is this, is like, we don't even know who this lawyer is. Bob Huggins has had previous lawyers before. We don't know who this guy is. And so we don't know if we should be processing the retirement or whether we should be dealing with this. And basically it doesn't make Bob Huggins look very good. I'll read very quickly a part of the correspondence from West Virginia. The conflicting communications and correspondence from various counsel on Mr. Huggins' behalf leave the university unclear as to its next steps. Continue working collaboratively with Mr. Fitzsimmons on common resignation retirement benefits for a former university employee. Mr. Fitzsimmons is his former lawyer, or respond to meritless demand letters and possible frivolous litigation brought forth by you. In other words, West Virginia is saying, look, we were working with the guy who has represented Bob Huggins all along to get this thing done, to help process this retirement, to help get him his benefits that are afforded to him as a state employee, as a school employee. And we don't really know what to do right now. And so I guess my just big takeaway, now that everybody has the facts, is this is just really sad, man. It's really sad. And it's frankly just kind of really disappointing behavior for Bob Huggins. Do understand, that obviously there are state laws in most states that limit what you can do in terms of firing somebody or letting somebody resign or whatever in the midst of, rehabilitation, which is what Bob Huggins has apparently done. But really, to me, this is just really, really, really sad for a couple different reasons. First off, doesn't it feel, and maybe I'm wrong here, you guys and girls, tell me if I'm wrong, YouTube comments, Twitter, whatever. It feels to me like Bob Huggins doesn't understand the severity of what he did. I understand he's a basketball coach. I understand it's what he's always done and it's what he wants to continue to do. But Bob Huggins, it's a pretty bad track record for Bob Huggins right now. Remember, this was a DUI. This wasn't running a red light. This wasn't jaywalking. This was a DUI, nearly 3 times the legal limit per the police report. And oh, by the way, again, according to the police report, didn't know what city he was in, thought he was in Columbus, Ohio, which is 90 minutes or something like that from Pittsburgh. Can't explain how he got there, why he's there. Hours in his day. This is really serious. And it comes off of, as I mentioned, an inappropriate comment made in a radio station. The school stood by him. And I should mention as well, it's not even his first DUI, as he got one at Cincinnati many, many, many years ago. Not saying that he needs to be perfect, not saying that I'm perfect, but come on, man. You're probably the highest paid state employee, maybe the most prominent state employee in the state of West Virginia. You can't be acting like this, one, but you're literally putting people's lives in danger. Said it when Bob Huggins got arrested. We'll continue to say it. You want to have drinks? You're 69 years old. That's fine. We live in an Uber, black car, Lyft world. Oh, by the way, outside of the fact that you can get an Uber or a Lyft, I'm pretty sure, I don't know. It just, get a car, get a limo, get a this, get a that. I'm guessing you can afford it. 2, the thing that really stands out to me about this is now it's one thing if you're making it about you. Okay. It happens. We all are guilty of it sometimes. The problem with this is now Bob Huggins is hurting the people that he supposedly cares about, right? Because remember, it was his assistant that got the interim head coaching job. So by doing this, what you're basically saying is, I want my job back and I want you to go back to holding my clipboard. That's not fair to the guy that maybe has a once in a lifetime opportunity because of your screw up. And oh, by the way, it's not fair to all the guys and girls on that staff whose careers were in jeopardy until the university decided to retain them. Everybody is in a different role because of Bob Huggins' mistakes. Everyone could be looking for employment a year from now because of Bob Huggins' mistakes. And he's pushing them aside and saying, I want my job back. And oh, by the way, what about all the players? There are players that could have entered the portal that decided to stay to play for this coaching staff because they wanted to represent the school, the state, represent Bob Huggins, but they've moved on. They're ready to play for Josh Eilert, the new head coach. You got to let it go, man. And 3, I think what's mostly disappointing is he ain't getting the job back. I don't know what the end game here is for Bob Huggins. Does he really think he's getting his job back? Is there money that he wants? Remember, this guy is a West Virginia icon. This is a guy that led his state school to a Final Four in 2010. This is a guy that's done incredible work for his state. As his daughter said in her little statement a few weeks ago, 20 plus million raised for cancer research, other great things done. And so to do this, you're embarrassing yourself, you're embarrassing your state, you're embarrassing your employer, you're embarrassing your former players, your former assistants. It's just a bad, bad, bad look. I wish Bob Huggins would move on, man, get the help that he needs. Maybe he is currently in the process of doing that, but this is just such a bad look.